Hello, fellow builders. Today we're continuing the story of Gregory. He's the owner of this plot of land, building a sleepy hamlet. He started off with $1.2 million, but now we're starting to get down into the danger territory. We're going to have to start working our pizza delivery job to complete this town. And it's crazy that $1 million isn't nearly enough to develop a small town, but I guess that plays more into the realism of the game. It's actually a really real possibility that the ending value of this town is around 3 million. So to pay for all this, I'm almost tempted to sell our collection of ovens, but I have a plan for those, and I don't want to have to give up on them just yet. We'll have to see where we are when we finish today's build. At first, I was going to start on the house next to the Houghton house, but the space is very small there, and I'm a little bit more interested in the space behind the post office. When I begun, I had no idea what this build would be. I have a few ideas for buildings I still want to include. A lighting shop, which those can be amazing looking on the inside. If you just Google lighting shop or LED lighting store, they have this chaos about them, how they present all the lights. It just looks so cool to me. The shop will be the light from which Gregory reads the plans for the last few buildings. Another building I'd like to eventually include is one that has more of an implied history, that its bones, telling that its bones are very old, but part of it was restored at some point. Just little touches that prevent everything from looking too clean and new, and allowing a little storytelling, without explicitly stating it. I ended up settling on a mechanic shop, mostly because I randomly decided to put a garage door in the build, and I thought it looked good. And so a mechanic shop this will be. As with the last few apartments, we aren't looking to recreate any particular building today, but I'm sure this build will look familiar. It has a certain design to it that just feels very classic. There's a lot of similar ones out there. I also early on decided to have sand green windows, just to break from the white, black, gray windows I seem to tend towards. And there's a good reason we usually use white, and that's because in real life, that's typically the color plastic windows are manufactured in, and even wooden panes are painted white. But this is not a playground where I do what I did yesterday over and over again. I want to learn and grow. Doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. Though Gregory disagrees. He's insane regardless of what we did yesterday. Another big thing is that I wanted this build to be shaped with the apartment floors above overhanging. The game doesn't allow for subtle overhangs for walls, so the compromise I chose was to build up the lower wall a bit more, to even it out a little bit. I also chose this green brick texture, and I was a little stubborn. I probably should have changed it to a less clashy color, but I mean, it sure does look interesting. And so we work on the main face of the building, which I'm pretty happy with. We're doing a bit of a different style of stonework than we did before, since we're right next to the post office. And I actually think this one's stonework looks a bit better. But, hindsight's 20/20. Just wait and see the massive transformation between the Houghton house and the home I put next to it. I've already got the home done, so... But for this build, I also kind of went a little extravagant for the window trims. And they do look nice. It really wasn't even a process of experimentation, interestingly enough. They just kind of came together really well the first time, and I'm not going to complain. I also added a gutter, which is, strangely enough, one of the things I'm most proud of in this build. It just adds something so unique. And one of the consequences of making a garage on this build is that we have to delete the sidewalk and adjust everything so that we can have the road going into the garage door, which worked well enough. It's just a lot of tedious work, which is something that rings true throughout life. Things rarely come together easy, and even when they do, they require sacrifice and maintenance. Another bold choice I'm going to make is to place a large tree in the garden. It's a tight squeeze, and it blocks pretty much the entire facade when you're viewing from the front of the lot, but I'm alright with that. I also decided to change the color, which I've said before is a common thing with me. The rest of the build is really just copying and pasting what we did before, except I did leave one of the windows bricked up, which I think looks neat. Maybe we can come back later and change the color texture of the bricks to make it look like a later addition, but all with good time. Really, this helps us when furnishing because we're going to put a kitchen here. But as always, These little bursts of progress feel so rewarding in the end. It feels as though another piece of the puzzle has been placed, the final image becoming ever more clear. Gregory may have been a bad person before, but he is now closer to his future than his past. Similar to people's remarks of getting older, at some point it's no longer about look what I accomplished in spite of where I started. It is instead look what I've yet to and will accomplish. As it is not over once you accomplish your first goal, it is the avenue by which you will travel to your next one. Making a goal is the easy part, proving yourself to it by taking these steps is what separates you from everyone else. And that leaves one final thing to attend to, the interior. Again, I don't like buying the top of the line everything, mainly because it isn't what I value in these builds, and I'd like to not work the pizza job forever. It is more making them feel everyday, lived in spaces. Which I'm going to be honest, I was very inspired for the interior, until I reached the top floor. Then it was like, it was Gregory. He told me to stop spending all the money, which is fair. We don't have the money to start the next build without working a little bit. But such is life. We go to work so that we may build our own home, and furnish it with the things that make us happy and keep us going. It is better than Gregory turning back to crime. So, as always, I appreciate you spending time with me today, and Gregory does as well. Next time we're going to be building another house, which I'm super excited about. But as a bit of foreshadowing, it runs a little more expensive than I'd like to admit. As for now, things in Gregory's life are changing, and he's got to address them soon enough. They echo around him. It is his choice to respond before they're sound to silence, before the ripples disappear. We don't ever expect things to stay the same, yet we love to fall into routine. But you faced change before. Looking back, notice the ripples that led you to the present. What in your life do you dislike today? It is up to you to tame the waves and inflict positive change. Negatives will inevitably come, but always listen for the echoes which lead you forward to tomorrow.